Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. Today I have decided to start a new series on my channel. I have kind of made a little prequel to this series, but I am starting it like officially today, and that is to talk about why some of my favorite books are my favorite books. And then I mean favorite books as in favorite books of all time, not books that I like just gave 5 stars. This is just like literally like my favorite series ever. Like the ones that are on top notch, the ones that I always recommend. And I feel like to have that requirement, I need to have read like the series several times, at least like 2 times, reread them a few years later to like reaffirm that they're still my favorites, and just completely like still love them. I don't know how to describe the feeling. And the reason I said I already made like a little prequel of this is that many years ago, I don't know how many years ago now, I made a video just talking about my favorite series of all time, which was like a Norwegian fantasy series, and I talked about like why and like my history with it in that video. And it's like kind of in the same vibe in this one. I'm trying to just like explain more of like why my favorite books are my favorite books and like go more into depth with them. So I like planning to do like one video for each series slash book, and then it would be like a little ongoing series on my channel. So obviously it would take a while before they come out again, because I feel like I need to reread some of the ones I consider my favorite books, and we should see if they hold up, and we should see if they get a video. So yeah, starting off with this series then, I have, as you can probably read in the title, I'm gonna show you Muse of Nightmares and Stranger Dreamer, which is the duology by Laini Taylor. And the reason like this just came out first is just because I reread randomly Muse of Nightmares the other day, because I was listening to audiobook with Erica, my best friend, and the Muse of Nightmares was someone picked. We had already listened to Stranger Dreamer like 2 years ago, which seems like a really long time in between, but obviously we didn't listen to it again. And then we finished with Muse of Nightmares, and a part of me had kind of like forgotten how much I loved it. I thought maybe it couldn't hold up anymore, but it did. Like, I literally cried reading it, and I knew what was gonna happen, and I still cried. I think it's such a beautiful story with so many great themes to it, and characters, and the writing is beautiful. I have small complaints as well, we shall see if I get into it. But yeah, I'm just gonna try to not go into more of the gritty nitty details of like why I really love this, and why I still think it holds up for me as a favorite still. Just talk more about the series. First of all, gonna show off my editions. I have the normal US hardcovers. So this is just obviously the first and second book. They are the shiny editions, as I like to call them. And yeah, I really like them. Actually, I bought Erica's Stranger Dreamer later, and it's not shiny anymore. It's like kind of glossy. Not glossy. Isn't this glossy? Brassy? Like kind of like, I don't know the adjective right now, but like not shiny anymore. It's not like this, which is a bit sad, but it's fine. So those are like the normal US hardcovers. You can even see which print I have of these. Just to be curious, I have the first print, but I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that. Obviously, there was a whole debacle because the UK hardcovers went out of print pretty fast, at least the first one. Especially like, I think Fairlit had an edition with blue spread edges, and people fought tooth and nail over that. And I never got that because I didn't have Fairlit at the time. And now, later, I always wanted the hardcovers in the UK editions, but a bit later Illumicrate decided to do them, so I got those, and I'm very very happy. So I have the UK hardcovers as well. These has gold spread edges and silver spread edges. I feel like these are not worth as much as like the favorite ones, etc. And then when this came out, like the Muse of Nightmares, it had orange spread edges, and there was many more prints of those, so those were out for quite a long while. Well, this one had blue spread edges. I don't know if it was a favorite edition or if it was just like all the first prints had the blue spread edges. Either way, I like these editions a lot. I got the covers that I really enjoy. I love the sprayed edges, and I like these editions a lot. So I got both the sets, and I'm really happy about it. I'm not gonna hold the book the whole time. That is some effort. So basically what it follows is that I cannot talk about everything in the book without kind of spoiling the nitty-gritty details of it. I don't know why I keep saying nitty-gritty details. It became a thing now, which is kind of weird because there's so many stuff that you don't actually know before going into it, and then it slowly gets revealed. And it's kind of like a mystery a bit. It's a kind of like a fantasy mystery, and it's very slow paced, but it's very beautiful. It's just a beautiful, beautiful story that I really enjoy. But first of all, a tiny synopsis. We follow Laszlo Strange, who is an orphan and grew up like in this, I was gonna say, monk place. He's kind of obsessed with a city named Weep that he knew the name of, and he was playing out in the yard, and then one day the name of that city disappears from his mind, from his tongue. He cannot remember the name anymore, and it seems like like everyone around him has forgotten about the city as well. So it gets the name Weep. And then we just have him, his whole life being obsessed with the city. He's trying to research it, he's trying to find about the city, if it was even real, if it was in his mind. But it is like some proofs of the city. Barely, but he has like dug deep, and he works in a library when one day this, I was gonna say character, figure, person comes in and is named the Godslayer, and he is looking for people to follow him to the city of Weep to help them with something. They just don't know what, and they're gonna help them. And obviously Lasso Strange gets to go on this expedition. It's not really a spoiler because what else is gonna happen, and we're trying to figure out what happened to the city of Weep. Why did the name disappeared, and what happened 200 years ago. I guess you gotta read a book to find out. And literally that's all it says in the synopsis for the first book. And obviously I can't talk about the second book without spoiling the first book. And it's a bit annoying because I want to talk about more of the stuff that happens. But he also started having dreams of this blue-skinned goddess that may or may not be connected to Weep, which I don't want to say more about. That's what's going on. So for the characters of the book, I think Lasso Strange is one of my favorite characters I ever read about. He is like the softest, goodest characters. I talked about a bit this before, that I love inherently good characters that always does the right choice and always would do the right thing, obviously being flawed and like innocent and like not always sure what is the right thing, but always try to do the right thing if they know it. And he's like a really just like a good person that like forgives and is open, and I just love him so much. He's like innocent and adorable, and I love him. Now for the other characters, it's kind of like you cannot talk a lot about them, at least like some Weep people. It's like you cannot really speak much about the characters. Like Lasso Strange has like I was gonna say a childhood bully that turns out to be much more layered than we think he is, and I shipped him and Laszlo so much. Unless, especially on a second reread, obviously that was not meant to be, but like disappointing. But yeah. And I just love the characters. I love how the story is a lot about trauma. I don't love the trauma, but I love that how trauma is just so prominent in all the characters, and how they have built up this trauma in their years, and it's just rage and sadness and depression and so many bad things for all of them, because there is this kind of I was gonna say conflict between these two parts in the city of Weep, and they are both fueled by rage and fear. There's a lot of like rage and fear in general, and how this is handled and how this is, I was gonna say, developed and explored, it's so beautiful and very sad, very heartbreaking to see like one character, for example, being so angry and spiteful and mean and terrible, and you're just like, I hate this character, but then you just see why, and just like can see so clearly that's how else was this character gonna go. And it's really sad. It's very good at writing sadness and emotion and rage over many years, and as I said, like revenge, and how the story is a lot about killing and just hurting each other over and over, but when will that hurting stop? Laini Taylor like want to write a story about, isn't it enough killing now? Isn't it like, when do you stop? And someone needs to stop, and that might be Lasso Strange to stop it, who knows. In the nitty-gritties of it, I want to say though that a lot of the story actually focuses on rape and sexual assault, and it is a lot of like the trauma that a lot of the characters have gone through comes from that. So I wanted to say that because there's a lot of pain in this book, and there's basically that pain has almost everyone has gone through, not Laszlo, but like the themes of the book is a lot about like, you know, the trauma they went through. And if like you kind of read about that, it never happens on page, but if you kind of read about it, it's like a huge theme of the book is sexual assaults, and just generally assaults of the body and the soul. So it is difficult, you like, when you think about like what they went through, it is like you cannot wrong anyone. As I said before, it's like two sides, and you cannot wrong anyone for like what they went through, even though again it's not like detailed, but it's definitely known, and it's known for all the characters, like how terrible it has been for them. But underneath all these terrible things, it is a story about healing and forgiveness and love, and how those things will win in the end, and it is just told beautifully. I tear up. I think it is just a story about family and friends and love, and that has gone through horrible things. but that in the end will prevail, whatever the word is. And I just think that that is really beautiful. So about the characters more, is that they have really like interesting, like I was gonna say, characteristics, and I really love them. One thing that bothers me actually is Laszlo and a certain other characters love, because it's like, that is insta lovey. They love each other to death after like 2 days, and I'm just like, don't love it, because I feel like I didn't feel their chemistry as well as I should have, because they literally loved each other for the get-go. I wish we had gotten like more time for them to actually feel things for each other. But also the story is literally told over like a few days, so it makes sense that like they need to go a bit faster, or like not a few days, maybe like some weeks, but like generally I think Muse of Nightmares, the second book, is like literally 3 days. Not even joking. Because of that, it's just like, I don't care about the romance. And the story is very romance heavy. While like I wanted them to be together, and I see again why they loved each other in the end, I just wish that we had more time getting used to them being together. That's like my main complaint, is that, what to say, they literally start kissing the moment they meet. And I was just sitting there like, okay. So like when you think about that, that is a bit annoying to me. I just wish, I don't know, sometimes I just wish the romance didn't exist at all, like when I think about it, or like that it was a different kind of romance. I get that Laini Taylor writes really beautiful like romances, etc., but for me this story is not a love story like that. It has love in it, but I feel like the love between families and friendships for me is always stronger than the love they had, especially since how it just like suddenly started. So for that, that is my main complaint of the story. I know also a lot of people like don't love the pacing and the writing. Laini Taylor writes very flowery and beautiful, and for me those sentences are perfect, and I just love how she writes, and I love how the story is presented. I don't think the story would be half as impactful and beautiful for me if it wasn't written as it is. But I know people like have DNF'd it, and I couldn't get into the story, especially at the beginning. 150 pages goes a bit back and forth in kind of time, like flashing back and forth of like how they grew up and stuff, and people get easily like put off by that. But I think just the revelations and like the themes and the characters makes the story so much worth it. And then there's the world building, just the world and what it gives. It is done so well, especially how we start out with, you know, the mystery of Weep, and when things are revealed about Weep, it is just like, oh my god, this is so cool. How did this happen? And how did this develop? And how did this come to be? And then like we get more and more reveals of like how they have lived, how like these two again factions have functioned, not just now but 15 years ago and 200 years after that. And especially Muse of Nightmares, how the world expands, what is being revealed about certain aspects of the story, and just how again we go deeply into these traumatized beings of what has happened. It has a lot to do with characters, but as well as like the world building of like what really was going on. And I just feel like from the beginning to the end, I could never guess where and how they were doing certain things. Like, why were they doing this? And then you get to the end and I was just like, oh my god. And I feel like we could have a whole spin-off, by the way, afterwards with certain aspects of the story. I want a spin-off, that's what I want. And just the magic system, very interesting how that functioned with a certain element that I again can't talk about because that is also revealed later. How abilities are being used and like how powerful they were, but like in different aspects. I love it so much. It's a very much like kind of story for me where I love people who have powers, and I just loved how they were explored and developed, and how, I don't know, how terrible it was as well. But there's also some kind of beauty to it, which I really enjoyed, and I thought that was very interesting. I don't know, I'm so vague because it's so difficult without like talking directly about what I think about, but in my head it makes sense, I guess. I'm trying to make this book appealing to you. Am I making it appealing to you? That's what I need to know. In the end though, this is a story about trauma and healing, and a lot of, again, hate and rage, but just with so beautiful magic. And I think, like, as I said, the world expands somewhere you really don't expect, and just how Laini Taylor, I feel like, really thought through everything here from like the beginning to the end, how she wanted to tell this story, how certain things, as I said, was revealed. And I just I loved it so much. I had kind of forgotten how much impact Muse of Nightmare has, because really if you read Stranger Dreamer and you don't read Muse of Nightmares just gives like the second half of the story. It was supposed to be a standalone, and then Taylor split it up to 2 books, which I think was done perfectly. And I feel like you have to read Muse of Nightmares to get the full impact. And it was just so good. It just like the perfection of a duology that I never read before. And I feel like I'm never gonna experience this feeling again. Because really, I read the other series by Laini Taylor, The Daughter of Smoke and Bone, and I didn't love that actually. I was just kind of bored, and it didn't have the same like impact and like emotions that this had. This is just such a story for me. It feels almost like a dream. Ironic if you read a book. And it's just such a good book. I know it's like also now a few years since it came out, this seems like a late video, but like as I said, I reread this, not this, but I reread Music of Numbers like really recently, and it still holds up. It is just a story that digs into your heart. The characters give so much, the writing gives so much, the world is just so, I was gonna say, cool and sad, and just how all the people in the end deserve second chances, everyone. And it's just so much pain for everyone that you cannot blame them. And I just cannot. I feel like I want to talk more about like why and how in a way, but I realize how much spoilers that it really is, because how much things are unravel and like reveal in the book, it's just part of the ride, so I cannot say more. But I hoped I like gave some sense. I want to have like this series on my channel as well, so I can refer back to like why is my favorites, and like if someone asks me for recommendations, I always have these top-notch ones. So yeah, you should expect like more videos on other super faves. These are like, obviously they went straight into my favorites. I wasn't sure if I was like them as well, because I read them and I was just like, will I love it? And then I read Surgery and I was like, oh my god. And I had no plans of picking up Music of Nightmares at once at the time, and then I did, and I was like, oh my god. And just the way these made me feel is emotions. But yeah, you should expect like more videos of like in this series of like other faves, like JCD, Digital Remote, Saga, Poppy War, etc. I just need to reread those first to like be able to talk more about them. But these are my feelings to them and like how I feel they are. And yeah, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed. Leave a dreaming emoji down below if you enjoyed this. Maybe like someone's sleepy, or like, is it like a dream bubble? I don't even know. I don't know what emojis exist, because it fits really well for the story. And I don't want to say more, but I'm emotional now. I want to reread them already, but I will. Also, I listened to an audiobook the second time I reread, and Steve West reads them. Did a marvelous job of reading them. So again, very much recommend checking out the audiobooks if you don't want to read them physically. They can be a bit like, because of the writing, slow, but it's worth it. Again, audiobooks are also really good. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my Patreon down below if you want to support my channel further, and you should see me soon in a new one. Bye!